Okay, welcome everyone. As people are coming in, I'm really interested, and you can share in the chat if you want. How are you doing this December and holiday season? Like, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm feeling, I will say, hopeful and encouraged.
Okay.
So are we writing this in the chat, or are we just saying it?
Well, right now we're a pretty small group, so we can share if we want. Like, I would say right now I am feeling equal parts anticipation and fun. There's a sense of fun in the air at this time of year, but also a little bit of tension and maybe a little bit of pressure to create magic. So that is in the air. Kayla and Camille, as you are joining us, we are sharing either in the chat or out loud how we are doing in this December/holiday season. So that is where we are as we're coming together here this morning.
Well, I have so many mixed feelings about this holiday season. So there is all over the place. It's like all over the board.
Okay.
I'm doing a little something new that I've never done, that I haven't done before, and I'm kind of excited about it. At the same time, I've been separated from, I'm single, and I've got 3 adult brothers and their families, and I'm kind of separated from them. So I haven't participated in family Christmas stuff for a long time. I've been creating a new tribe, and that kind of family tribe, and that kind of feels exciting. Like, that feels really good, creating a new family tribe for myself. It's slow and go, but that's okay. Yeah. So I kind of just like chill out. I'm just like chilling, doing what I do during any time. Like, so what, we're putting up lights. I'm kind of like taking it as like, okay, it's almost like any other day for me, just putting up lights, but also trying to create my own space for what the season is about, is loving and giving. And so that's what I'm trying to dive into, is loving and giving.
I feel like, Kelly, what you've experienced, so many of us experience in different ways and to different degrees, right?
Sure.
I think although December is not the only time that we experience challenging situations and encounters with family members or friends or just relationships in general, but I think it kind of gets brought into this poignant moment, maybe partly because there's this like cultural expectation of what it's supposed to look like.
Yep.
And maybe because of a variety of reasons, we're all being brought together in a space where we wouldn't normally all just hang out together, right?
Sure.
So that's another thought too. Kayla.
So sorry, I didn't mean to raise my hand. I love what you were saying. But I'll go because I'm in a quiet space and I have a 6 3-year-old right now, and so that's why I wasn't able to jump on. I was like, okay, everybody shut up, I'm going to the bathroom. So that should tell you kind of how my month is going. It's good. This is a huge transition month for our family. Andy got a job at DCS, Department of Child Safety, this month, and so he's been down in Phoenix training multiple weeks at a time. So I'm kind of holding down the fort up here. And I recently got a job as well. So it's just like, and Sammy started daycare. So like all those things are happening within about 10 days. And I'm just like, I'm hanging on. It's, you know, I'm being drug, I feel like, but I'm standing still. So it's good.
Oh my gosh. So relatable.
Yes. Right?
Well, in like just a moment, I'm going to like bring us into a moment to all gather together. And hopefully, you know, this kind of reminds me, in another part of my life, I'm a photographer, like a portrait photographer. And there's like this moment when after we do all the chaos of the family pictures, I have just the parents or whoever like be together to take a picture of them, right? Like that's important too. And I always teach them like, here is your date. Like, here's your mini date for the day. Like,
Oh,
it's like 2 minutes, right? But like, here's your mini date. And I almost feel like maybe in the midst of everything else you're carrying, Kayla, here is like your moment to be here surrounded by us and feeling supported.
I feel that. I love you guys. I'm excited to be here.
I have missed you. Okay.
Same.
Welcome to our learning lunch. For those who are joining us virtually, like after our live event, we are glad that you are here. I'm your host, Michelle Jones. I'm the director of the Mindwell Collective, and we are a group of wellness professionals, and we are all huge fans of collaboration. We love this idea of coming together to support one another, but also to support you in our community, whether you're locally here in our community or connecting to us from far away. And we really love this idea of community connection and education. I am a trauma coach and trainer, and I'm really passionate about bringing hope to others. Hope is my very favorite word, and it is my hope that today, as we are connecting about difficult conversations and relationships here in the month of December, that we can bring some hope, that even in these challenging things, there is a path through for each one of us. I also have a passion for helping people to understand their bodies, their experiences, so they can move from survival into creating a life that resonates for them. As I mentioned, our learning lunches, there's something, we had these in-person events once or twice a year, and we all felt collectively it wasn't enough. We wanted to have more of an ongoing connection with each one of you and to be learning together and supporting and encouraging one another. So here we are. And this is my favorite part, and I think I speak for everybody, that our favorite part is being in connection with one another and with you. So as we have all come from different tasks, responsibilities, noise, and commotion to be here today, I'm going to invite you to take a moment as I bring all of us together into this space. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And I just want to invite you to take a nice deep breath. Envisioning as you are bringing in that fresh air and oxygen, that as you exhale, you are able to let go and release the things that are not needed now. You may have been carrying many things that have been important for you to be holding and carrying, but in this moment, there are some things that are okay to release and let go of. And as you are breathing, you may find that you feel directed to set that aside for a moment. I like to envision a little table that's just to the side where I can just set everything to the side, all of these things that are my responsibility or that call to me or that I am managing and caretaking for. And that for this moment, it's okay for them to just sit as I am able to be here and present in this space. Knowing at this time that this time and space specifically has been set aside for you, for connection, compassion, acceptance, and support. And as you are breathing in, perhaps there is a softening and you can feel that compassion and acceptance for you. We are glad that you are here. Welcome. You belong. If you are wanting to belong, if you are wanting to be part of what we are creating, then you are. Here you are. As you are here in this space, I'm going to have you take another couple of deep breaths. And I want for you to think about, what do you hope to get out of our time together today? This is a busy time and you have created space to be here. What is it you are wanting? What are you hoping for? Think of this as setting a bit of an intention. How do you want to show up in this space? What are you hoping to take away? And as I bring you back to this moment, you can share in the chat if you would like, so we can support you, what your intentions are or what you are wanting and needing today. if that is something that feels helpful and supportive to you. We will be creating a time to have a reflection at the end of our time together today, where we can connect back to what our intention was at the beginning and kind of reflect on what we want to take forward with us from today. Judy and I have been connecting together behind the scenes in preparation for today. And I know that she would agree with me in saying we have some thoughts and ideas to share, but we are very open to the guidance we receive to go where we need to go to support you today. So first things first, I am so excited to introduce you to Judy Graybill. Judy is a relationship healer and certified step family coach who specializes in moderate to high conflict relationships. I'm sure that never comes up in step families. That must be really challenging for you to find opportunities to implement that. She has been coaching for nearly 15 years. She's really gifted at identifying where couples get stuck and helps them develop the mindset and emotional coherence for long-term intimacy, harmony, and strong partnership. Her formal degrees are in sociology and psychology, which complements her certification as a step family coach, along with her personal experience and subsequent healing journey. And like a little bit more on a personal note about Judy, she is a child of divorce and has had firsthand knowledge of dysfunctional family patterns. She gets it. They followed her into adulthood and 4, quote, failed relationships, culminating in a painful but amicable ending to her high conflict step family experience. I feel like each one of these sentences, Judy, is like a whole story.
Yes.
That is 100% what I felt as I was connecting with this. Feeling heartbroken, confused, and resentful, she set out to be happy and whole again. Through a personal and spiritual journey, Judy managed to heal her complex trauma, and that ignited her passion to help others through similar experiences. In addition to coaching, Judy writes, speaks, and facilitates in-person workshops. And of course, she's a member here of the Mind Will Collective. So as we were discussing how to proceed today, Judy and I decided that we would like to have this be more of a conversation than a presentation. And I love that that energy has already been here today, as we have really had more of a conversational beginning than any other learning lunch. I don't think that that's a coincidence. So Judy and I are going to be having a conversation, and I think it's going to feel really obvious why I might be part of some of these conversations, because sometimes when we're dealing with difficulties in family, trauma is a big part of that experience. So we're going to bring both of our experiences into play. So let's get started. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. And I want to say that I really love that beautiful space that you set for us today and the intention. I love the visual of like the table on the side, setting aside our personal responsibilities and things. And that is definitely like lending itself into a lot of the thoughts that I had today with what we wanted to discuss. I actually set my own intention for how I wanted to show up today. I mean, like I do this every time I speak, or anytime, like for coaching sessions, when I'm going to write a blog, when I'm going to do a presentation, in-person workshop, I always set my intention for how I want to show up. So I thought of it ahead of time. And how I want to show up, I will share, is I want to be open-minded to what other people are experiencing. I want this to be as relevant as possible to the people who are showing up today and the people who are going to be showing up later. So I also love that we already started with the conversations of how people are feeling, experiencing, because that is one of my intentions, to understand where people are at and make that more relevant. So in addition to that, I created an intention for what I would like to impart Like, even though it's going to be in flow and I want to invite people's responses, people can ask questions anytime in the chat, or you can raise your hand if we spark a specific memory that you feel is relevant. Like, we're in a space today where we get to learn from each other. I mean, that is the beauty of community. And we already have on the call today some people who have a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, and a lot of their own personal lessons they've learned the hard way or the easy way. So this is an opportunity for you guys to share too, if I spark something. Or if I trigger something that specifically is a challenge in your relationships or family that you feel is going to come up, definitely ask that so that we can address it. But with that said, my intention for how I wanted to guide the conversation is I would like to mostly inspire and plant seeds and give people food for thought on how to show up firmly in your authenticity, neutrality, and bringing out the best in others. Now, I will say that there's no magic formula for that. You know, like, you know, that's not going to be a surprise to anyone here. And but I do believe that there are things that we can do to minimize it. And I want to start with like the intention that you set today. Like, that is one of the biggest things that I found can set the tone. It's something we can do ahead of time. And again, it's not when we set an intention for the day. And like, let me just share a personal story real quick. It's not a long story, but like, I was talking about my dysfunctional step family experience. Holidays were the worst for me because and it's not exclusive to me, but like, step parents tend to like be scrutinized a lot more than, I mean, like, that happens in biological families too. I mean, it happened in my own biological family, which is one of the patterns that followed me in my relationships. But as a step parent, it's even more so. It's just amplified. So like, the holidays were always the opportunity for people to scrutinize every single thing that I did. And I hated every holiday. Like, I would have so much anxiety over that. And setting my intention was one of the biggest things that I did to help myself. Like, before the day started, I would be like, no matter what happens today, I'm going to smile. I'm going to find a reason to smile today. And that guides what we say, how we say it. And there's a power in that. There's a power in knowing that no matter how somebody else responds, I still have the power to do something differently. But I wouldn't do that if I didn't think about it ahead of time and prepare for that. But I knew going into it that I was going to have to. So, but like, one of the things we can do is do that regularly, whether we don't know when we're going to be triggered. I knew I was going to be triggered because I was always getting triggered. But like, on a regular basis, we don't always know. Do you know what I mean?
So as you're saying that, Judy, it's reminding me like this new thing, which I love, like, you know, don't let there be any illusions that this is always like how I have shown up in spaces. Like, I love that we have this grace and ability to continue learning and developing and have these fresh starts, right? And how we approach things and approach situations. But in the last handful of years, my husband and I have started this idea of like sharing our intentions with each other before we're heading into a situation.
Nice.
So maybe we're like in October, we attended this conference together. Like, what are your intentions, here in this space? Like, what are you hoping to get, or what is your focus, or whatever? But also, this has been really helpful. Like, if we're heading to like a family meal, and it doesn't always have to be like high conflict. It can just be a difference in what we each thrive in. Like, I really enjoy social. This will be no surprise to all of you who know me. I really thrive in being connected and socializing with people, and that's energizing to me. Like, there's fun in that for me. And my husband has a very like, his social battery, it fills up very quickly, and then he is like, okay, like, that was good, I loved it, and now I'm done. And so, like, communicating ahead of time, I think, can be so helpful to say, this is what I'm hoping for, this is what I'm needing. Because one of the things that I've told my kids before is like, I have your back 1000%, but I'm a terrible mind reader. So I can't just magically know what it is you're needing, but if you let me know, then I'm happy to help you. And I think a lot of times, and this is sort of ideal, right? Like, in the ideal circumstance, we have somebody that we can communicate in that way with. But it really led me to be thinking. I had somebody encourage me, and I've loved it too, the beginning of this holiday season. So that's like an intention between the two of us within the relationship to do that. But also just the intention, what is it you are wanting from a holiday? Like what is it that you want Christmas to feel like? What is that for you? And I had the opportunity to think about that. So each one of you, if you haven't already had a chance to think about that, like, the holidays can be so many things. And Sarah, I love that you just jumped in and the leg lamp is behind you, because it is going to fit so well with what I'm about to say. Because one of the things that is my intention during this time is fun and whimsy. Like, to me, that is like such a joyful part of the holidays, is for it to be fun. So if I'm thinking about what is it that I'm wanting to purchase, or how do I want to handle this, or who do I want to have over? Well, if the intention is that I want fun and whimsy and open-hearted love and connection, then that's going to like help me make some of those choices and decisions, right? So that was kind of what came to my mind as you were sharing this idea, which I love that this wasn't even like where we had planned to start. And yet, isn't that such a cool thing that we can start from a place of, what is it I am wanting? Like, that matters. So much of what we do, we're thinking of other people all the time. What does this person want? What does that person want? How can I keep the peace? How can I do what everyone else is wanting and needing? And I think, we all happen to be women on the call at this moment, but I think as women, we do that so often that I think it's important to remind ourselves that we get to choose, what is it I am wanting?
Right.
Yes. What do I want here?
Can I just want to point something out, like that you said, Michelle, is like when you talked about sharing your intention with your husband, and you guys, like, when you're in a supportive relationship with that, it could be a family member too. One of the things that I found that is helpful, like, especially if I'm hosting an event, it's way more stressful. Like, even if you enjoy it, it can be stressful. But like, typically I was hosting with somebody who, like, we didn't always agree on how things would go, and we both would get like really stressed. We would have what we would call our safe word. Like, if we're like really, really, really stressed, and we want, and like, if we want to ask the other person a question or responding in a certain way, like, we would have like a safe word ahead of time. Like, right now, I cannot process. I'm so stressed that if you ask me anything, like, I'm not going to be able to help you. And it would be something really benign, like spaghetti, like, you don't want a safe word that's, out there. But like, I feel like that, that can be helpful too, especially if you or your partner know that you're going into an environment where either of you are likely to be triggered by family members, or extended family.
One time we were on a family weekend up at a cabin, and this concept came up. And because we were up at a cabin, I'm going to explain why our word is the word that it is. It's elk. And it was like, if like a conversation is going a certain way and teasing is going like a little too far, it's gotten a little more like, it's not quite teasing anymore, you know, or I don't want to talk about this topic anymore or whatever, then you could just say elk, and it became like this joke, elk, elk, elk. Like, no, I'm all done here. But I think that there's something very wise in that is there somebody, so like if I'm going to bring us back to this idea of I'm coming to this family gathering, this dinner, this party, like whatever it is, or maybe it's even just a phone call or a conversation that's happening, like, is there somebody that can be a safe connector for me? Somebody that whatever it is that I can connect with them on some level, whether it's just a look or a word or something that lets them know I'm struggling and they can communicate, I see you. Like, you're not alone in this moment. I can see how that would feel very soothing and comforting to see if there's a way to carve out somebody that can be that person for you. But Judy, I want to take us back to you kind of like in the midst of all of these really cool things you were sharing, you brought up like a 3-point thing, which is wanting to empower us to show up in these situations with authenticity, neutrality, so being able to be neutral, and bringing out the best in others. Am I remembering that right? Those are the three things. Okay, so which is the thing that you think that people tend to struggle with the most of those three?
I think for the group that we have today, I would venture, like, we naturally take responsibility for our personal health, for our emotional health, our mental health. If not, we wouldn't be here today. And we're all, I would venture to say, every single person listening to this, whether it's today, live, in the community, or is going to listen later, that's kind of like what we do. That is natural for us. But that comes with the other side of the coin, which means that we sometimes take on too much responsibility. We take on responsibility for other people. We take on responsibility for other people's feelings sometimes because we are so capable and we do it so naturally. We sometimes and we're not even consciously aware that we're doing it, but we're like we're thinking ahead of time how people might react to us, and we are going to likely we're going to compensate for that. We are going to say this differently, think this differently, and sometimes what we can do, or maybe many times, and I want people to know, I want to see a raise of hands or comments in the chat if other people can resonate with this. We contort ourselves a lot to other people, and that suppresses our authenticity. So I would say, of the three of those, being neutral, authentic, and bringing out the best in others, our authenticity is probably the hardest, because when you're people pleasing and you're worried or concerned, we want everybody to be in harmony. We want everybody to get along. We're taking responsibility for ourselves, and we naturally want everybody else to take responsibility for themselves. But unfortunately, not everybody does that. So we sometimes want to inspire them, and sometimes we're trying to impart knowledge to them in ways that we think is going to be helpful, and it can be overkill. Or sometimes we're so busy like second guessing, we're just suppressing our own opinion. So like we kind of like oscillate between like saying too much or not saying enough. Sometimes we won't stick up for ourselves. Sometimes we'll suppress our true opinions, because we're like afraid that it's going to like offend somebody or make other people feel uncomfortable. And oh, I love Camille's response. My motto is diffuse, diffuse, diffuse. And Kelly says chameleons. Yes, that's exactly what we do. We're going to be everything that we need to be in order to make sure everybody else gets along, because we want to take responsibility for everything. And okay, mind shock here. We cannot control how people react to us. We can't control how people feel. We cannot control other people's feelings. And initially that might be like, oh crap, that could be like the feeling the worst thing ever. But it can also be freeing.
Yeah.
Because if you cannot control how people are going to react to you, it frees you to like just speak yourself. Just speak your mind anyway, and not be too concerned with how people are. It's like, in other words, it's okay for other people to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and actually that's like exactly, as you were talking, I wrote down a couple of things, and one of them was literally that. I literally wrote, it's okay for people to be uncomfortable. And that's maybe a new idea for so many of us. And that really, we kind of inherit that from generations before us, right? And it may be helpful to kind of discern, sometimes it may not have been safe for someone to be upset.
Yeah.
And
yes.
so if someone had a response at some point in our life that when they were upset on some level that did not feel safe to me, now I have sort of trained myself to do everything that I can to keep other people from being unhappy so that I can feel safe. And it's interesting because, a lot of times that type of thought or belief starts in childhood, but it can start in a very dysfunctional partnership as an adult as well. But, it's interesting because that can be really helpful to discern in this moment. Like, I'm having this impulse or this feeling that's telling me I'm like not safe, not okay. This is a big problem if someone's unhappy right now. And the reason why that can be problematic is because, like, let's picture it, whether it's a family vacation or a family meal, like, I don't even know that it's possible to get through. I mean, assuming it's more than 15 minutes, where not one person during that whole time has something that they feel annoyed with, bugged with, whatever, they're not in a great mood. Like, that's just being human. Like, statistically, the chances of all of us having only positive human moments when we're all collectively together is low. And so maybe it's just starting off with that premise, right? Like, I know for me, family vacations completely transformed when I was honest enough with myself to say, at some point, people are going to be in a bad mood. At some point, people are going to be overstimulated, tired, whatever. And it doesn't mean I've done something wrong. It doesn't mean something has gone wrong. It doesn't mean that I need to fix this. Right. And so when we're heading into a family dinner, we can say, at some point, someone is going to get their feelings hurt. At some point, someone's going to be cranky. At some point, someone's going to say something. And it doesn't mean I've done anything wrong. And it doesn't mean I have to fix it. This is human nature. Like, let's just call it what it is before we even walk in. We talked about setting intentions, but can we just set our expectations back to a human level, which says all of these holiday Hallmark movies that I see are fantastic and it's dreamy, but I guarantee you none of us are experiencing that exact duplication here at home. Even though we love each other and we have all these skills, we're still human. So we're going to have that experience. And I think as a mother and so, like, as a woman, maybe one of the things that I had to learn in order to do that is that I don't have to match the emotion of the people around me. If I'm somewhere at a family dinner and someone else is upset, I'm still allowed to have a good time. Like I'm
Yes.
still allowed to be happy and have fun and whimsy, which were my intentions, even if someone is feeling cranky over like 5 seats down.
I
right?
love that you say that, Michelle, because it's important to say it out loud, because we do sometimes forget that. I mean, like when other people are suffering, especially if any of us are in situations where a family member is struggling physically with whether it's physical illness or it's mental illness, emotional illness, or any of those things, and they're suffering or they're having a really hard time, it's harder for us to feel, or grieving, because I'm sorry, the holidays also bring up the loss of family members. So like also we're aware of other people feeling that loss at a different level than what we are. So if they're suffering in any sort of way, we tend to like feel bad about feeling good. Like, what right do I have to be happy? Like, how can I be happy when this other suffering is happening? But the thing is, we can be both. That's what you kind of said, Michelle. We can be both. And I love that you had said that out loud, because that's true. But there's another thing that you said that was really important when you were talking about like not feeling safe to express ourselves. Along with that, which I think deserves to be said, that we learn from childhood too, is that not only is it like sometimes not safe, or maybe there's times when I shouldn't express how I really feel, but also like my needs don't matter. Because like if people, like especially if anybody who's listening later like is raised in a family where like as a child they're taking on extra responsibilities for their parents, because their parents are like, whether it's a addiction, like like an alcoholic or a drug addiction or severe mental illness, kids who take on, and this is where I know you're going to have a lot of input, because it brings up a lot of childhood trauma, but like, so children who are raised in that environment are learning how to be a parent at an early age, and therefore they are taking care of everybody else's needs naturally, especially the oldest in the family. So what they don't realize subconsciously, they're growing up thinking that their needs don't matter. And it's not even so much that they're thinking it, because it's so embodied, that knowledge or that thought, that belief, that like I shouldn't be asking for what I need, or like it's my responsibility to take care of everybody else's needs. And they're really just not even thinking about asking for what they need. And
Well,
go ahead, Michelle.
I was going to say, and I would say it's not just that they think that or believe that. In some families, when people are growing up, it's true.
Yes.
It's true that the child's needs do not matter. And so that is a felt truth in the body. It's something that is known and understood, that what I am needing in this moment is not important, because what's important is whatever the dynamic is, keeping dad happy so that XYZ doesn't happen,
Yes.
right? And so I think, it's interesting when we talk about this from like a trauma perspective. I think it's really helpful to remember, like, there are some things that we learned for really good reasons.
Yes.
Like it's not like, oh, look at you, silly you learned to not put your needs first. Like, no, smart you. Stunning, like marvelous guidance on your part, that as a child you learned how to navigate an impossible situation. Like, amazing. That's fantastic. Like, we do not need to look back at that and feel shame. We can feel compassion that was the role that we had to take, but we did. And the proof that we have that was like good to do is because here we are. Like, we made it. Here we are, dun, da, da, da. We made it into adulthood, and we have made it through that. And so wonderful. But now we have this opportunity as adults to look at this and say, that was so important for my survival then, but is this helping me now? is this something that will continue to help me to grow and develop? And it's like, yes, obviously all children's needs matter, but some children have grown-ups who don't prioritize that, right? And so as a child, we depend on these adults to do that for us. But as an adult, it's my responsibility to be aware of my needs and to make sure that they are being met. And I have to take that on. And I think sometimes it's like this leftover desire as a child to be cared for and nurtured, that we are still hoping as adults that someone else is going to read our mind and like provide for our needs without us even having to say what they are. And it's understandable. There's great context for that, but it's like so much more empowering to just say, no, you have needs, your needs matter, they are important. And your number one responsibility is to be attentive to understanding what it is you are needing and to make sure that that's taken care of. And having the permission to do that, even at a holiday dinner, like even in the middle of something, if what your body is communicating to you is, I need a break, like I'm overstimulated and I'm done, you are allowed, like you are a full-blown grown-up. You are allowed to get up from the table and walk outside and take a walk, even if someone has uncomfy feelings about it.
Right. Yeah. And so what comes to mind for me as you were talking is when we're in the midst of other people who don't get it. So like, because this has been my experience, and I'd love to hear if other people have this experience with other family members. So we talked about how we as a group, we're naturally introspective. We're naturally working on ourselves. But the challenge comes in when we're surrounded by people and this is going to be more so for people who have more unhealed trauma, because when you're not recognizing your own unhealed trauma, you tend to, and I feel like this is part of like my story. I feel like this is why I ended up in the relationships that ended up not so dysfunctional, is because I didn't recognize those patterns in myself. So then I also couldn't recognize the unhealed trauma in others. And so that brings up a whole nother conversation about like unknown, undiagnosed trauma. But like what I want to talk about is like being in a situation with your other family members. It could be a partner, but like we're talking about the holidays. So we're talking about family, extended family, in-laws, those, or it could be friends too, who are not taking responsibility for their own health. They're not taking responsibility. Let me even put it another way. They're not self-aware. And when they're not self-aware, they make comments when you, as us, we like speak up for ourselves. Or if we decide to ask for what we need, or like those things that we learned in childhood, sometimes are still going to show up in these real life situations. And like giving ourselves permission is one thing, but then if we're still working through some of our triggers around that, and if we're in the midst, we haven't like completely healed it all yet, we're still working on it and trying to overcome it. So we take up the courage, and it takes a lot of mental and emotional determination, self-determination to say, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to like take permission to like get up from the table and leave. Then somebody makes a comment like, oh, you're just going to walk away, are you? You don't want to, like, I mean, this has happened to me. And so like, we also have to then, sometimes bite our tongue, or sometimes just grit our teeth and say, force ourselves to smile and say, yes, I am. Thank you. And sometimes we don't have to say anything more. Oh, Camille says that very thing happened to me at Thanksgiving, standing up and walking away. I love
Honestly,
that.
yeah, like honestly, sometimes you have to do that. And what you're saying reminds me, I had an opportunity to interview an author. Her name is CJ Hathaway, and she wrote this book called Don't Hold Their Poop. And I thought it was like such a clever, like it's just this cute book. It's great for kids, but adults too. Like it's like this amazing, there's great pictures. It's like a graphic novel. And it's like this idea of so many times people don't want to navigate their own emotions. And so they hand them to you. And
Yeah.
then, and like, it's like their poop. They're like, here, hold this for me. And we're like, well, you handed it to me. So I guess I gotta hold that. And it's like, well, we would never do that if someone actually handed us their literal poop. Like as gross as that sounds, like it's no different. Like, here's this gross stuff I don't know what to do with. Here, Sarah, you hold it for me. Like, I don't know what to do. And we're like, hey, but now I've got like 8 people's stuff. And now I'm like, it stinks and I don't know what to do about it. And it's like, there's no rule that says that you have to hold it for them, right? Other people's, like, especially, you know, I think it's different when we're talking children. If children are having difficulty navigating their inside feelings, that's really different. I think as adults, we have a responsibility to help them with that. But other adults, their inside feelings are their business. And if they're upset or offended or hurt feelings because of something, when that is not my intention and I am showing up with kindness, then like there's no way that it can be my responsibility to navigate someone else's inside feelings, right? So I was thinking about that piece of the puzzle, and I wanted to touch on it if it's okay with you, because we're just like running short on time, this idea of what a trigger is and how to notice it in the moment, because it gives us like a permission slip to like step back and take self-care when we're noticing that we're triggered. And so what is a trigger? Another word for it is activation. And it's really, you know, something that we talk about a lot, but one of the ways that I have been able to sort, is what I'm feeling right now a response from this moment, or am I being triggered in some way? And so this is the filter that I personally use. Is what I'm feeling right now bigger than what the situation calls for? And is it not a match? Is what I'm feeling not a match, right? Someone says a little thing and I am full of emotion and energy, or my emotion just isn't matching what is happening. That's a clue for me that what I'm feeling inside is not just about this moment. It's about other stuff. It might be about this moment 10%, but it's 90% about other stuff. So trying to like hash it out in this moment isn't very helpful, because 90% of it won't be resolved that way. It's old stuff, right? And so what can we do when we get triggered? I'm going to give you, there's like 4 steps, but the first 3 are like the most important in that moment, is like name it for yourself, right? Like, oh, I'm going to pause right here. This response feels super big. So this is about old stuff. Like it's not even just about this moment. And to resist feeling shame for that. There's context for it. There's a reason why our body learned how to respond this way. And it's okay. You are allowed to be human and to be having this response in this moment. But how can we exercise some self-compassion in this moment? With this big emotion that's not even fully about this moment, what is it you are needing? And that's where curiosity comes in. Like, what is it that is needed in this moment? What do I need? And Camille had the experience that what she was needing was to step away, right? I've definitely had the, you know, similar experiences where for me, it was reminding myself that I don't have to be in charge of their inside feelings. Like that has been a hard lesson for me to learn. I'm a recovering control freak who felt very skilled, and that it was an essential job to manage other people's emotions, for sure. And so stepping away from that feels awkward at first, and we feel clumsy at it, but that doesn't mean that it's not still important. So if you're feeling triggered at a family event, have some compassion for yourself and recognize that you are the only one that can soothe that internal feeling that you are having. it's probably not going to be resolved by really trying to hash it out in that moment with whoever it is that brought that up for you.
Yeah, I think I love everything that you just said. And also I will add to that I just, or it's more of a like a reminder, just, arguments themselves do not damage relationships. It's not recovering or repairing them afterwards. So like I want people to, like, we also don't feel comfortable when we lose it. Like I also want to give permission to, like, all those times that you were triggered and then you didn't get up and walk away, and like afterwards you're beating yourself up because you didn't. I want to give you all permission to, like, forgive yourself for that. Like, it's okay sometimes to lose it. We are human and we're not going to be perfect. There are some times where we will accidentally, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Okay. I mean, we're not ever going to be comfortable with it, but like, I would say, but sometimes losing it can be a catalyst for change too. I'm like, I think if you're not spewing hatred at people, like if you're not, like, if I lose it because I'm not naturally somebody who name calls or anything, like I'm not a, you, typically if I'm losing it, I'm just like, it's more about myself. I'm not name calling or anything, but that can be a catalyst for change. Just want to throw that out there because I want people, and also like repairing or recovering from that argument in that, for whatever relationship that is, that can happen afterwards also.
Yeah, I just want to add my personal experience with that. I know before I went on my trauma healing journey, I would often get triggered in parenthood. And I would react in ways that didn't match the situation. They were bigger than they needed to be, or it just didn't match what was happening. And that was very hard and in some ways really damaging for my kids, right? And now that I have processed those things and I don't get triggered in my parenting, I want to bring some hope because I have a beautiful relationship with my kids. But a huge part of it, like you said, Judy, came from doing really thoughtful repair work with them to like own up to it and let them know, hey, I know that I had these big responses a lot, especially in these types of situations. And I need for you to know that that was never about you. You did nothing wrong and you never needed to fix it. And I'm really sorry that that's how I showed up. And here are the things that I have done and that I'm continuing to do so that I can show up differently, right? And I have like a very close and bonded relationship with them now. And so I love that reminder that even though we may be thinking like, oh, I can, like, these little moments like come sharply into our mind of times when we may have reacted badly in the past, that absolutely, like, and we're not going to shame ourselves into healing. We're not going to shame ourselves into mending our relationships. That is not a path for growth. I think shame really keeps us small and frozen. And somehow, for me, the secret has always been figuring out a path to compassion. How can I have compassion for myself? And that tends to open me to healing and open my relationships to repair.
And also, that's exactly what, like, the third part of what I suggested, neutrality and authenticity, bringing out the best in others, like all that healing that you had to do, Michelle, like, see, now you are naturally bringing out the best in others because of all that ongoing work. It's not work we do in a minute or overnight. It's work we do over the long haul, over a long period of time, that allows us to, like, bring out the best in others, because we're also understanding ourselves better. And then when we understand ourselves better, then we're able to recognize more things in other people. And it comes naturally. It's not about a magic word you say. It's not about a magic phrase or a magic thing you do. It's just about you know yourself and you know who you are, and you're not afraid to show up as that. As Camille says, 100%. When we do our healing, we can show up better for everyone. Michelle is very good at that. Yes.
Thanks, Camille.
I also want to take this moment, because to mention the podcast or the conversation I had with Carla Reeves, and it's a compliment to all our discussion today. So anyone who is listening today who is resonating with what we talked about, the conversation I had with Carla on her podcast Differently was about turning conflict into connection. So it's kind of like a companion conversation to everything we talked about today. I want to recommend that. Check out, a lot of people
Judy,
in the group already know Carla.
Yeah, Judy, if you'll send a link to me when I send out the email to the whole group, I will include a link so that people can connect to that.
That'd be awesome.
I just want to give us a minute as we are almost out of time, but I think it's so important to have a moment to pause and reflect on this conversation today. What is it that you are wanting to remember from today? Is there something that you are feeling is especially important or was important for you to hear? You can connect back to your intention today. Maybe it's connected to that, or maybe it's something you didn't even think to set an intention for that really spoke to you that you can bring forward.
Thank you.
So I'm just giving a little bit of space. If you would like to share in the chat, you are welcome to, and we can encourage you and cheer you on in that. As people are kind of thinking about that, Judy, I want to give you a chance. Let me know, where can people connect up with you?
The best way is my website, judygraybill.com, JUDYGRAYB as in boy, ILL.com. I am on, and I have a contact me page. So social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as Judy Graybill or Judy M. Graybill. And, but my website is always the best way because, social media changes.
Yeah, I love it. One-stop shop. Okay, perfect. Judy, thank you for spending your time with us today and sharing of your perspective and all of this experience that you have, really being a witness to so many families and the things that they have experienced. This concludes our December Learning Lunch. We will see you next month for a deep dive on connecting to your body. So thank you for joining us and trusting us with your time today and sharing this hour with us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.